Hello students, we are going to study about circulation topic. We'll do it in three parts. We are going to see now the first part, which will include the definition of circulation and the various types of circulation and blood. Now what do you mean by circulation? Or circulation is very important for transportation. Organisms takes up oxygen and nutrients from the surrounding. These oxygen and other nutrients, they are circulated within the body. The urea produced, the waste produced is also given out into the surrounding. There are many food material or many other things, enzymes, hormones, which are circulated in the body, and all this is done by circulation. So in organisms, transportation is by diffusion and active transport. Now this mechanism is suitable when the surface area of the body is large and the organism is relatively small. For example, in paramecium, in amoeba, in root hairs of plants, cyclosis can be seen. Cyclosis is a streaming movement of the cytoplasm shown by all the living organisms. So this is helpful for intracellular transport. See this. This is the paramecium where intracellular transport takes place by streaming of the cytoplasm. This is the root hairs in which cyclosis takes place, where water particles are moving around. While in animals like sponges, what happens for circulation is the water will enter through the outside, through small holes which are called as ostia. The water will enter inside and it will go out through the osculum, and in this diffusion takes place. Whatever is required, it is absorbed and it is circulated in the body of the organism. This is what happens in smaller organisms like sponges. Now in organisms like flatworms, okay, what happens is the exchange of materials take place between the surroundings and the body wall with the help of diffusion. This is how in smaller organism transportation takes place. Now what happens in higher animals? In higher animals, from annelida to chordata, they have a special circulating fluid, the blood, and there is a pumping organ also, which is called as the heart. So that takes place in the higher animals. Now this vascular system, okay, it is of two kinds. One is open circulation and one is closed circulation. Now what happens in open circulation? In animals having an open circulation, blood, that is the fluid, circulates in the body cavities. Now these body cavities are called as hemocoel. Okay, the organs are present in the hemocells and there is exchange of material directly between the blood and the cells of the tissue. Now the blood which flows does not have a high pressure, it flows with very low pressure. It also does not contain hemoglobin, a pigment, and is not responsible, not necessary that it should transport oxygen and carbon dioxide. This open circulation is generally seen in animals like arthropods and mollusks. Now we'll see what is closed circulation. Now closed circulation takes place in blood vessels. Okay, there are special network of vessels in which the blood is going to move around. There is no cavity as such. There is no cavity, and the exchange of material will take place through the blood vessel and the outside, maybe by diffusion or whatever. The blood will flow with a high pressure because there is a pumping organ which leads to a pressure in the vessels. It will also contain a pigment, respiratory pigment like hemoglobin, for the transport of respiratory gases. It is seen in vertebrates, higher mollusks, animals, and of course human being. Now this is a picture of an open circulatory system and a closed circulatory system. See here, it is like there are cavities over here, and here the whole blood is there. The hemolymph, it is called as, it is present over here, and the exchange can take place in the sinuses and all the surrounding organs. While this is a closed circulatory system. So here these red color ones, these are the blood vessels, and the blood will only flow through this, and exchange will take place between the. Now we are going to see the types of closed circulation. Now closed circulation can be of two types. The first one is single circulation, and the second one is called as double circulation. Now in single circulation, what happens? The blood will pass through the heart only once, and this heart will carry deoxygenated blood, and hence it is also called as venous heart. These are mostly seen in fish. This is the diagram of the heart. Now what happens here? The blood will come from the gill. This is the gill area, and this is the heart area. This is the heart area, and these are the body tissues. Now from here, when the oxygenated blood, it will come and it will go to all parts of the body. From all parts of the body, after giving up oxygen and becoming deoxygenated, it will go to the heart, and from the heart, it will get pumped to the gills, and here it will get oxygenated. That means the whole blood will travel only once. This is called as single circulation. Now what do you mean by double circulation? Now in double circulation, this is the heart, this is the body tissue, that is the other, it can be your legs or it can be your hands, fingers, ears or whatever, and this is your lung capillaries. Now here what happens, the blood gets oxygenated and it comes to the heart. From the heart, it is pumped to different parts of the body. So your ears, your fingers, your toes, your stomach, they will all get the blood. They'll use up the oxygen, and then it will be given back to the heart as deoxygenated blood. So the blood has come to the heart 2 times, and then it will go back to the lungs for oxygenation. So this is called as double circulation. The circulation from the heart to the parts of the body and back to the heart is called as systemic circulation, while the circulation from the heart to the lungs and back to the heart is called as pulmonary circulation. This is seen in human beings. Now we are going to next, that is human circulatory system. The human circulatory system is made up of 2 things: blood system, that is blood vascular system, and lymphatic system. We are first going to study about the blood vascular system. It consists of your blood, heart and blood vessels. The study of blood, when you are studying about the blood completely, it is called as hematology. An average human adult will have around 4 to 6 liters of blood. Now blood is what? It is a red colored fluid. It's a connective tissue connecting all the organs of the body, and it is derived from mesoderm. Okay, it is slightly alkaline in nature, that is around pH is 7.4. You must have all tasted it, so you know the taste. It is slightly salty and viscous, that is thick. It is heavier than water, and it has 2 main components. The first one is the fluid, that is liquid plasma, and the second one is the blood cells. We are going to study about both of them. First we will study about plasma, and then we will see the different kind of blood cells. Now what is plasma? Plasma is nearly around 55% of your blood. It's a liquid. It is straw colored, it is slightly alkaline in nature, and it is thick. The main constituent, the main composition of plasma is your water. Okay, water is around 90%. Then comes proteins, some inorganic salts and others which constitute around 1 to 2%. Now in this others, what will be there? In this others, there will be food. Okay, whatever digested food will be there, it is present. Then waste products, urea, uric acid, creatinine, some hormones, enzymes, vitamins, anticoagulants, cholesterol, antibodies, and the gases like carbon dioxide, oxygen, and so on. So this is your plasma. Now we come to blood cells. Now blood cells are of three types. Now what are those three types? RBCs, that is erythrocytes, then WBCs, that is leukocytes, and platelets. Now we are going to study about erythrocyte first. They are circular, biconcave, and enucleated. Enucleated means there is no nucleus present. Exception is camel and llama. In camel and llama, they have nucleus present. Now the red color of RBCs is due to an pigment which is called as hemoglobin. It carries the oxygen. It helps in carrying oxygen. In males, the average number of RBCs will be around 5.1 to 5.8 million, while in females it will be around 4.3 to 5.2 million per cubic millimeter. Now this is called as total RBC count. The process of formation of RBCs is called as erythropoiesis, and the total lifespan of RBCs will be around 120 days. The place where RBC is formed, that is the erythropoietic organ formation, like when it takes place, it is the liver in the fetus. It is the liver and spleen in the fetus, while in adult it is formed in bone marrow. Many things are required for RBC production. For example, vitamin B12, folic acid, heme protein, and so on. Now, when there is an increase in the number of RBCs, it is called as polycythemia. And when there is a decrease, it is called as erythrocytopenia. Erythrocytes. What is the main function of erythrocytes, that is RBCs? They are responsible for transport of oxygen and carbon dioxide. It will maintain the pH and viscosity of blood, and it also helps in the process of blood clotting. The hematocrit is the ratio of volume of RBCs to total blood volume. It helps in finding out various disorders of blood. This is the image of an RBC. Say this dark colored in the center. It is where the nucleus was supposed to be there, but then while formation it is just removed out, and instead this place, this biconcavity, helps in accumulation of hemoglobin and transport of oxygen in turn. Each erythrocyte is made up of a protein iron complex. There are 4 chains. See here, 1, 2, 3, 4. The difference in the colors will show. So there are 4 chains, 4 polypeptide chains made up of alpha and beta chains. Now to each one there is an iron porphyrin group or the heme group which is attached. This is the heme group. So this is attached, and each heme group can carry one oxygen molecule, and hence one hemoglobin molecule can carry 4 oxygen molecules and can form oxyhemoglobin. Carbon dioxide can also interact with the amino group and form carbaminohemoglobin. Now, after the RBCs are destroyed, hemoglobin will be broken down. The globin part will be recycled, while the iron part is stored as ferritin, and the porphyrin group, it is converted into the pigment biliverdin and bilirubin. They are added to the bile and afterwards removed out of the body along with the feces. Now this is for hemoglobin. Now next we come to WBCs. Now what are WBCs? They are colorless nucleated cells which are larger than RBCs. They have the ability to come out of their capillary walls by a process called as diapedesis. A normal adult on an average will show 5,000 to 11,000 WBCs per millimeter cube of blood. In case there is decrease in the number of WBCs, then it is called as leukopenia. This leukopenia is seen in cases of HIV, AIDS, tuberculosis, or shock, or so on. In case there is increase in number of WBCs temporarily, then it is called as leukocytosis. It is generally due to infection, and an uncontrolled increase in the number of WBCs leads to leukemia. Now, the main function of WBCs is protection. It is concerned with defense mechanism. There are many kinds of WBCs. We are going to see about the different kinds of WBCs. Now, the main two kinds of WBCs, what are those? Now, they show polymorphism. That means many forms are present. And the main two form in which they can be divided is granulocytes and agranulocytes. Now, granulocytes are the WBCs which shows the cytoplasm with some granular nature, while agranulocytes will not show any grain-like things in the cytoplasm. It is homogeneous. The cytoplasm is going to be homogeneous. The nuclei are in different shapes. Around 72% of the WBCs are granulocytes. These granules are nothing but secretory vesicles, and they will contain various secretion and enzymes. Now, depending on how they stain under the microscope, let us what color they take under the microscope, we can divide granulocytes into three main types. Now, which is the first one? The first one, we can say that it is acidophils. Now, acidophils, they are also called as eosinophils. They are stained to red color with acidic stains like eosin. Around 1 to 3% of WBCs are acidophils. The nucleus is bilobed in nature. There are two lobes. Okay, it will be bilobed in nature. And the main function of this is destroying antigen antibody complex by phagocytosis. In allergies, their number will increase. They can also show antihistaminic property, and they are also responsible for detoxification as they can produce antitoxins. The next type of WBC is basophil. These cells have few granules of large size and they stain with basic dyes like methylene blue. They are around 0.5 to 1% of the whole WBC count, and the nucleus is twisted in nature. The main function is secretion of heparin, histamine, and serotonin. They are present in infected and allergic conditions only. The third type of granulocyte, that is the type of WBC, is neutrophils. Now, in this, the granules are very fine and evenly distributed, and they are stained with neutral stains. Around 70% of your WBCs are made up of neutrophils. The cells are spherical and nucleus is multi-lobe. There are many lobes. Around 2 to 7 lobes will be present in the nucleus. The main function of this WBC is phagocytosis. They destroy the pathogens by the process of phagocytosis. Pus, which you may have seen in case of some infection or something, it is nothing but mixture of dead neutrophils, damaged tissue, and dead microbes. Now we come to agranulocytes. These cells have no granular cytoplasm. It is homogeneous in nature. The first one, what we are going to study in that is lymphocytes. They are the smallest of the WBCs and they constitute around 25 to 30% of your total WBC. The nucleus is large. It's a large spherical nucleus what is present. The lymphocytes are of two types again. This you will be learning in your immunity chapter. Okay, the two types of lymphocytes are B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. That is, they are responsible for antibody production or humoral immunity. You must have studied about T cells, killer T cells, memory T cells, suppressor T cells. So this is what you will be studying in detail in your immunity chapter. And the last kind of WBC is nothing but a monocyte. They are the largest of all the WBCs. Nucleus is very large and somewhat bean shaped, okay, or kidney shaped in nature. It forms around 3 to 5% of the whole WBC. They are very much motile, they are moving, and they give rise to macrophages and do phagocytosis. Now, this is your WBC. And the third type of blood cell is thrombocytes or platelets. They are small fragments which are formed from large cells called as megakaryocytes. They are produced in bone marrow. They are very small, oval in shape, and the number is around 2.5 to 4.5 lakh per millimeter of blood. If the number decreases in normal, then this condition is called as thrombocytopenia. Dengue, the blood test, when a blood test is done in case of dengue, and if platelet count is down, it will show that the person is having dengue. It's a classic symptom of dengue. Okay, platelets secrete platelet factors which are responsible for blood clotting. We'll study this in the third part of our video. They also help in formation of platelet plug, and they also secrete serotonin, which is a vasoconstrictor. So with this, we finish the first part of our circulation chapter. Thank you.